Okay, a couple things. Okay.
Hi, this is Melissa Fike, and welcome to the Healthy Relationships series. So excited that you joined us today. And we are going to be speaking with Angela Artemis, and she is going to help us learn how to use our intuition as a warning signal in our relationships. And so let me just tell you briefly a little bit about myself. I am a personal development coach, and I work with spiritual expansion and opening yourself up to who you truly are so you can create the life that you desire without bringing your old baggage with you. And I do group coaching and one-on-one coaching, and I'm really here to introduce you to Angela and help you um, work with your relationships in a more healthy way. And I always know that almost everybody who comes to me, they have issues in their relationships. It's either an issue in their relationship with their health, their relationship with money, or it could be the relationship with their sibling or family member or husband or partner, boss, coworker. But there's always some sort of a relationship issue. And what I want people to understand is that all of your relationships matter. And in the biggest thing that people don't get is that you actually have relationships with inanimate things like money. It's because that idea is still an energy and you still have a relationship with that. So let me welcome Angela. So Angela works with frustrated coaches who are tired of working way too hard for too few clients, who want to finally stop doubting themselves so they bring in more clients, grow their income, and feel authentic and self-assured in the process. She's the best-selling author of The Intuition Principle, an intuition expert, and a business success coach. Her passion is teaching women coaches to trust their intuition in business decisions and to eliminate the limiting beliefs that hold them back from becoming wildly successful entrepreneurs. What she's really good at is intuitively rooting out the hidden inner barriers that block coaches from confidently owning their expertise and making more money. Her clients inspire her, and what she loves is empowering them with both the mindset tools and business strategies to build a thriving business and permanently escape that 9 to 5 grind. And today, I'm so excited because Angela is going to be speaking to us about the 3 ways your intuition warns you when all is not what it appears to be in your relationship. So, welcome, Angela.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what this intuition thing is? Give us a little idea of that. And how did you come about recognizing that in your own life? And why is it so important for everyone to understand?
Sure. I started to listen to my intuition because I started to notice that I was making a lot of mistakes. I went into the wrong career, and after 10, 12 years, I was very unhappy. I chose a career in finance, and I started learning about the hero's journey. And this was from Dr. Joseph Campbell. And this was in around the early part of the 90s when his work was being publicized. It was on PBS. And he started talking about things like follow your bliss, and doors were open where there were only walls before. And I didn't realize it, but as I came to later understand it, he was talking about listening to your intuition. And so, listening to him, I eventually left the job I didn't like. And I eventually began to say, if I was so unhappy before, I made the wrong decisions, I didn't trust myself. And that's a big sign. If you don't trust your own decisions and you're always second guessing yourself, you make poor decisions because you'll go back and change what you thought was right. So I decided as an experiment what I would do, and this was in January 2010, I would start an online journal of my quest to follow my intuition, and that was powered by intuition. So it began as an online journey to see what would happen if I did the opposite. And in a sense, it was kind of based on the Seinfeld television show where George does the opposite and his whole life just turns around and everything goes well. So I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to follow my intuition instead. And it actually became so much more than I ever imagined and led me to be where I am today. So that's my story.
Wow. I love that. And Joseph Campbell, I mean, what an inspiration.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, total inspiration. So, so you're here to talk to us about those 3 ways your intuition warns you. So why don't you go into what they are and explain that to us?
Sure.
Outline.
And you don't mind, I just wrote a few notes. So if I look
Absolutely.
away, I'm just going to be
Oh,
reading them
that's
because I don't want
normal.
to leave anything out. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's normal. I mean, nobody
Okay.
looks at people 24/7. That would be a weird.
They don't? No. Okay. So one of the ways that you know your intuition is trying to warn you are usually they're very subtle, and which is why most people ignore it or they overlook it or they minimize it and downplay it. And what you really need to do is become very, very competent at paying attention to what's going on inside of you and what you're feeling, because that will give you the biggest breakthroughs and clues as to what your intuition is trying to tell you. So I'm just going to read a few things I jotted down before, and you don't have to resonate to all of these, but some of these words will immediately, you'll say, yes, I recognize that. I've had this. So just follow along as I say, they can come as murmurings, very quiet murmurs, or whispers, or a gut feeling, or maybe a pull from within, a pull towards something. Or it's also the feeling of when something doesn't sit right, it feels off, or something strikes you as odd, and you maybe have strange vibes, or there's something that doesn't quite feel comfortable, and it just sort of hangs in the air unsaid. These are all feelings and associations that we've all had in our lives. And what happens is if you choose to ignore it and then something later happens, when you look back, you'll say, aha, I should have listened to that. Why didn't I pay attention? But this is the way we learn. And this is how we become so much better at listening to our intuition is by making those mistakes. So when your intuition is trying to warn you that perhaps all is not as it seems in your relationship, you need to allow yourself to slow down, because these sort of things, the whispers, the murmurs, the feeling that something is a little off or odd, it just flies by very quickly. And you can easily overlook it. So you need to learn how to slow down. And in fact, I would like to suggest 3 really good ways to get in touch with your intuition and help you become much more attuned to it. And these are practices that you can use every day. Very simple, learning to get quiet. If you have a practice of meditation, I highly recommend that. That is the best way ever to heighten your intuition and become attuned to it, is to just go within, get quiet, and listen. Ask yourself an open-ended question, and then pay attention to the very first emotion or feeling or thought that just whizzes through your mind. That is usually the answer that you're looking for. But you need to have a practice of being quiet and quieting the mind. Otherwise, as I was saying before, in our daily lives, you're driving, you're shopping, you're cooking, you're working. These things come by at lightning speed through the mind. And if you haven't developed a practice of becoming aware of how they come through for you, you'll easily overlook it. So it is a practice, it is a development, an intuition development practice in a sense. But meditation, going within, self reflection, and also another thing that you can do is journal. A lot of people prefer journaling because it's simple, because a lot of people get very hung up on meditation. They feel they're not doing it right, and then they question themselves when they're doing it. So even if they got quiet for 10 seconds or a nanosecond, they pop right back up. So if you don't feel that you're able to be a meditator, don't stress over it. The whole point is don't stress. Journal and write some open ended questions. Start with, what do I need my intuition to tell me about my relationships? I want to know A, B, and C, and leave 3 blanks. Something like, I wrote out a really good question for you. So I will use my notes here. So the things I need to know about my relationships are blank, blank, and blank. If you write an open-ended question like that at the top of your journaling page, and then you just close your eyes and allow yourself to connect, and then allow yourself to just write, fill in those blanks, and then keep writing. Try not to censor yourself. Don't go back and reread it. Allow it to pour out of you, because what's happening is it's flowing in and flowing out through the pen onto the page. You will walk away with some amazing insights and some truths that will be absolutely mind-blowing. So you can try journaling. It's very simple. And just, don't censor yourself. Don't read it. In fact, I even say don't read it for about an hour. Let it be. When you feel done, stop. That feeling of completion comes over you, stop. Walk away, do something else, come back later with a fresh mind, and you will be blown away by your wisdom, because you are so wise, you are connected, you know all the answers. Just, we don't trust. And that's the whole point why I started Powered by Intuition, just to go back in full circle, because I never trusted myself. I never trusted that I had the answers. I felt very insecure about my decisions. And connecting to my intuition has completely changed that, where I now have so much more confidence and complete feeling of assurance. When I make a decision, it's right. So this is what connecting to your intuition can do for you. It will not only give you a sense of peace and give you this connection to this inner wisdom that you already have, but it will heighten your confidence and your feelings of being able to make your decisions correctly and feeling capable. So it has many benefits. But the other way that I say you can get in touch with your intuition is really fun. I actually wrote a whole book about it, and it's finding ways to get signs from the environment around you, because we are constantly interacting with our environment, and I know Melissa totally agrees with me. We had a wonderful conversation prior to getting on the air. We are not separate. We appear to be separate, but we are all part of this fabric of life, this energy. And right now we look separate, but if someone was looking who had the vision and the ability to see, they would just see us as all interconnected energy. And maybe my light is blinking right now because I'm talking, but we're not separate. So if you are interacting with life itself, and life is being mirrored back to you through your environment, you can ask for signs. And what I always say is very simple is, if you want to get a yes or a no answer, say to yourself, I would like to know if maybe should I be leaving my relationship, perhaps it's that, or should I confront my partner, or should I marry this person, or whatever it might be. Pose your question in a yes or no answer, and then establish what sign it is you wish to get. And if the sign comes, give yourself a time limit. I always use 72 hours. I will say, if I find a coin within 72 hours, the answer is yes. Or you could say, I choose a red rose. If I see a red rose in 72 hours, the answer is yes. Or if I see a balloon, or whatever, if I see a hummingbird, whatever it is for you. I've chosen coins. I don't know why, maybe because I worked in finance for decades. I chose a coin. So if I go for a walk and I find a coin within 72 hours, the answer is yes. So this is another way you can use your environment to interact with your intuition if you don't feel confident or comfortable meditating, or maybe you're not a journaling person. There's other ways to get intuitive guidance. And pose the question in any way you wish, as long as it's yes or no regarding your relationship, and I promise you the answer will be right. Because you will try. I have tried this. Try to find a coin when you desperately want a yes answer. When the answer is really no, you won't find one. I have tried it because as human beings, we always wish to kind of impose what we want on the universe, and it doesn't comply. If it's not meant to be, it won't be. So I don't
That's
know if you have any thoughts on that, Melissa, but
I agree with you. I think it's really great when you're talking about that the signs will come, and people really, they'll keep on asking the same signs. And that's where I kind of find is funny is they'll keep on asking the same question over and over again. And that's where it gets muddled. So trust the first sign you get, which is what I heard you saying in a
yeah,
nutshell, is trust the first sign that you get. I also like the open-ended questions. Um, I was wondering though, will this starting to trust your intuition and just being like, okay, this is the intuition I got. It was a yes. So this is what I'm going to do. Do you find that that helps people eliminate their fear of the unknown and that fear of doing that thing that they've, is a big step for them?
yes. Over time, it does help you eliminate the fear of the unknown because you become so much more confident. Every time you take a step outside your comfort zone, you immediately become much more accustomed to the stressors of leaving your comfort zone. You become much more comfortable with it, and therefore you take bigger strides, you take greater action, and you become much more successful. So it's all a step by step, baby step to normal steps to these big strides of building your inner confidence. So, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I actually, I can't remember the name of the book, but there was a book written by a historian years and years ago that I read talking about the great witch hunts of the Dark Ages. And what he was saying was that for people lived in very scary times, they didn't have many of the safety nets that we obviously have today. And so they wanted answers. And if they believed in witchcraft or whatever, it gave them a sense of inner peace. And it also helped them strengthen their belief and their own confidence. So I'm not saying that this has anything to do with witchcraft, but I do think that when you take a leap based on something that you can't see, you're going to take a leap of faith and you don't know if the net is there, but you're leaping. This is what intuition is. There isn't any concrete sign that pops up that says, yes, you must do this. You have to just trust that little inside gut feeling. So every time you do it and you're right, you get much more confident and you have a much more strengthened inner sense of peace about making these decisions. So I think it leads to living much more successfully no matter what you do.
Right, exactly. I think so too. I tell people celebrate every intuitive hit you get,
Yeah.
even if it's silly. Like even if it was like, oh my gosh, I knew that that song was going to come on the radio.
Yes.
You go woohoo!
Yeah, exactly. I know it's funny that anytime I'm thinking about someone and they call me, I always go, yeah, I still got it. So because I don't really do a lot of reading work or anything anymore anyway. And so yeah, definitely celebrate, notice it, pay attention, do that little jig of joy. Great idea.
Well, I actually find that it helps the universe get to the idea and your higher self that and it's like, oh yeah, this is a good thing. I forgot that this is a good thing. And because when you say, yeah, I want more of this, then
Yes.
it just tells the universe, yeah, just keep on bringing it on. So I think intuition is important in every aspect of your life. Um, so what's the warning signs that women should look at?
Uh, um, the warning signs would be to pay attention to those little things that feel off. And it's really interesting. And I just published an article just before you contacted me, Melissa. It was all about knowing when it was time to change. And I used an example of a woman whose husband was having an extramarital affair. And so synchronistically, then you contacted me and wanted to have a chat about this. So I can just tell you that I the warning signs that I used can be very broad, but you can relate them to an extramarital affair. But in this instance, the woman comes home from work, her husband works from home, and she finds the bed that she made before she left for work in the morning unmade. And she doesn't really think anything too much of it. She says to her husband, "Did you get in the bed today?" And he said, "Yes, I didn't feel well, so I went and laid down on the bed." She says, "Okay." And then she needs to go for her annual examination at the gynecologist. And when she goes in, there's a new assistant who's taking her vital information. And the assistant says to her, "Have you had a test to see if you have you had the vaccine against HPV, which is a virus that is sexually transmitted?" And the woman says no. And in her mind, she gets this little feeling like, I think I should have that test. But she says, "Well, I've been married for 20 years. I don't think I really need that." And so she has the exam. And when she gets the results from her doctor, lo and behold, she has the virus. And she's thinking, that's odd. I've been married to the same man for 20 years. But the doctor assures her, well, it could be dormant or something like this. And then she has a birthday party that is thrown as a surprise party by her husband. And it was planned by her husband and her best friend. And somehow she starts to feel very awkward when her husband and her best friend are together. And she starts to notice at the party that there's sort of a ickiness. Something doesn't feel right. She feels uncomfortable. There's just this inner stirring. But she doesn't put two and two together. She just, thinks, well, I don't know. This is her best friend and her husband. And then the next sign is she has a dream. And this is one of the best ways. If you are a person who will remember and write down your dreams, they will tell you word for word what's going on in your life. She has a dream that she walks into her kitchen and this best friend is cooking a huge roast in her oven. And the best friend is completely startled when the woman walks into the kitchen and she says, "What are you doing here? Get out." And the woman feels like, well, this is my kitchen. What are you doing here? But then she wakes up and she thinks, well, that's odd. And the next thing you know, the husband tells her he's leaving. He's in love with her best friend. She's leaving her husband. And, the marriage has fallen apart. And at that moment, the woman remembers 15 years earlier, before they moved across the country from where they had lived because her husband got a transfer, she wasn't really happy in her marriage and she didn't really want to move. And she was almost thinking of saying, I think we should break up. But she didn't. And they stayed together and it was sort of convenient. She wasn't thrilled, but she wasn't completely unhappy. But because she didn't listen to that instinct 15 years earlier, what was meant to be eventually happened in perhaps, the most unpleasant of ways. So I hope that answers your question. And but it's really the signs are there, and it's always where we ignore our intuition. It's always where there's this little stirring inside, this little whisper, this little chatter, this murmur, or this kind of feeling where we're not comfortable in our gut. The signs are always there. We just choose to ignore them because we have a lot at stake. It's human nature. We don't want the marriage to end, perhaps, or we're not ready. Um, but the signs, the warning bells are there. Now, there's some other warning bells that can be very obvious, and these may or may not have anything to do with your intuition. But if you start noticing that you live as companions, obviously, you're not really intimate, you're not quite the couple you used to be, or you'd both rather spend the night out with your friends than each other. And obviously, if you're feeling bored, a lot of couples, they stop talking. They don't have anything to say. I've seen couples out to dinner and they just sit there and they really don't have anything to talk about. And one of them will be looking at their phone the whole time. That's a big clue. Something is wrong. Or if one spouse is always out, claiming they have all these business dinners and business events and they have to work late. And not only is that a big clue, but if you're happy about it, that they're not home because it's just as well, you don't really miss them. Oh, it's fine. That's a huge sign. There's something wrong, right? And if you notice that there have been dramatic changes in the appearance of your spouse, they suddenly start working out, they lose weight, they buy clothes. That is a huge, huge sign that many, many uh, people, that are in relationships overlook. They think, oh, look, they're taking care of themselves. Well, no, usually they met somebody else. So those are some big clues. And of course, you really need to pay attention to your intuition in these instances because if you're not paying attention, you'll just think, well, that's normal. He has business dinners. He's out late till 12:30, 1 o'clock because it's business, and it's fine with me because I just want to be home with the kids. But inside, you're going to start to, oh, it doesn't feel right. We're not connected. I feel like there's secrets. There's things hanging in the air that are unsaid. You can feel it. It's palpable. That's your intuition.
Do you think that intuition is something that everyone has, or is it something that you have to be born with, or it has to be like you have to learn how to access it? What's your idea or thoughts on that? I'm curious.
I think everybody has it. I think it's like anything. You know, um, Everyone has their five senses, and we like to refer to this as the sixth sense. Some people have a keener sense of sight. Some people are much more dependent upon the auditory cues that they get, and some people are more highly developed intuitively. But it can be developed. I mean, just as there's exercise for you to strengthen your vision, there's ways to strengthen your intuition. So I do think everyone has it. I do think some people are born with it, maybe more developed depending on your personality type. But I do think everyone can improve it just like anything else.
If your intuition is telling you that there's a warning signal, um, what I mean, and again, you may or may not be able to answer this, but I'm curious what you feel is that what would be like the next step for that person? Is it a confrontation, or and what if it's I mean, and what if their intuition is telling them that there's something going on, but they don't want to believe it. And I think that's where a lot of people go. They don't want to believe that that's possible.
Hmm. Yeah. I think that's the biggest problem because, especially once, if you are married, there's a lot at stake. It's very, very hard to get divorced. Even though in our society it seems to be easy, it is a long, drawn out legal process to get detangled, and it's expensive and it's very emotionally traumatic. So nobody really wants to face it. I mean, if you're in a relationship where, let's say I'm using the example of the spouse who's out late all the time or fairly often and has all these business functions to go to, and you just accept it blindly because, when he's home, I don't know, he doesn't clean up, he doesn't do anything, and he just lays on the couch and watches TV anyway. We never talk, so it's fine with me. He could be out all night. Okay, you have a lot at stake. You have a marriage, you might have children, you have a lifestyle, you have a home, you have property, you have assets. You don't really want to think about what it would take to untangle that and legally, break apart this legal union. It's enormous and it's also painful. So yeah, I do think people just tend to, because they don't really want to know. That's really, you just hit the nail on the head. They don't really want to know. And if you do know, a lot of times for a long time, you'll make excuses. Oh, it's just this. Oh, it's my imagination. Oh, he's just tired. Oh, this. Oh, it's work. He's under stress. You'll want to make a lot of excuses to preserve the life you have. And I think it's human nature. It's normal. And I'm not judging anyone. I did it. I'm divorced. I did the same thing. So, you know, um, you don't want that to happen. But of course, the signs are there. Now, I can tell you, if you are the type of person that remembers your dreams, pay attention. Keep a journal by your bedside and write down before you go to sleep. Tonight, I am going to have a dream, and it's going to give me clear insight about what's going on with my relationship, and I am going to remember it, and I am going to write it down and then sign your name, like make it a pledge. Put that put that pad of paper and that pen on your bedstand and tell yourself, I'm going to remember. And it might take you 3, 4 nights until you start remembering your dreams, but you will. And then write them down, because that will give you, your intuition works beautifully when you're not fighting it with the conscious mind, and it can just come in through a dream. And if you are open and ready, it will tell you exactly what's going on. You may even see, if it's another person, you may even see that person. So get ready. If you're ready, the answers will come, you know.
They will. I find that dreams are the best way to really connect to your higher consciousness and your intuition. So I think that's probably the best tidbit that everybody should take with them, other than the other ones, of course, the warning signals. But do pay attention to your dreams and pay attention to how you feel when you wake up too after your dreams. I think that's important as well. If you're waking up and you're not feeling great, then there's still something wrong in your life that you need to heal.
Mm.
Um, what is it that when women ignore, and let's just use women for the example, when women ignore the signs, what is it that what's the next step for them? So now all of a sudden they've discovered it. And I know I've kind of asked this
Oh,
question, but I want to know
yeah.
what your suggestion is to help them move through and pay attention, so that in the future they can really notice their intuition more, and so that it works for them in a better way. Because I want people to leave with this, not only that their intuition, okay, now they know that this happened, and their intuition, oh my gosh, I saw all those signs. Now what? Now what do they do with this understanding of their intuition?
You mean as it relates to what they should do with their relationship, or just
Yeah,
in general?
or any relationship in the future.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's always, how we learn best is through our mistakes. So if your relationship went on the skids, so to speak, and you initially were ignoring all these warning signs, when you finally become aware and conscious to it, you can go back and maybe write down, put it in writing. Say, okay, I remember when this happened and I ignored it, and I should have listened because this was a sign about this. I remember when that happened and I chose to overlook it, but that was a clear indication of this. Do that. Go through the history And you will learn about yourself, how your intuition comes through for you, how it informs you, and which of these different ways that it comes through. Perhaps it's dreams, perhaps it's having those subtle cues where that's the murmurs and the whispers, or perhaps it's your stomach being in knots, or perhaps it's a sudden flash of knowing. You will see how it works within you. And then you can use this again in the future. So, I mean, the next step, you have to want it, though. I guess, as we were saying before, if you're not ready, it doesn't matter. Just like anything, you might even know and understand your mistakes, but you're not there emotionally ready to make the next step, perhaps to leave or confront the other person and say, I know this is going on. You have to be ready. But I do think knowing how it works for you will help you in the future to avoid. And I do think once we clear some of these internal blocks to knowing what's really going on, as we clear those blocks within us, we change, and then we actually, our vibration that we are sending out changes, and we attract different people. So if we were to go on to another relationship after this one, perhaps where there was someone who was being unfaithful, if you change inside and you're willing to be honest and present and see where, you ignored things and allowed things to go beyond where they may have, so that had to end that way so it would end, you probably won't attract someone who does that in the future, because you've actually cleared out your own internal blind spots. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. And do you think that maybe even going through their past relationships, let's say they're not currently in a relationship, they can go through their past relationships and look for all their warning signs in
Yeah,
those relationships as well. So
that's a
that,
great idea.
yeah, so then they know where their intuitive hits are. Wow, when this happened, a lot of people be like, oh, well, I recognize that he was a manipulator. And
Mm.
it was that one day when he was with his brother and I could see him bullying him. So that's your intuition going ding, ding, ding. Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Take a look at this guy. And you can even use this with jobs, I think, too. All your warning signs, you could use that with, what did you see in an old job or an old boss that
Old boss, yes.
signs and stuffs too. So I think that all the warning signals that you were talking about are good for so many different aspects of your life, not just like, a relationship, a love relationship. It could be
Yeah,
in anything, really. Friendships
absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
So that was great. I like that. I love intuition. I think it's the most important thing for us. So what for healthy relationships, let's go on to the healthy relationships. What kind of signs or do you see that help a healthy relationship become stronger? So there is an intuitive thing that sometimes good relationships have between each other. So what do
Yeah.
you think about that and using your intuition for the healthy part of your relationship?
Well, I think if you're a really strong, emotionally bonded couple, and I'll even go so far as to just mention the chakras, if you have those connections, between the chakras, especially, not just the heart chakra, but the throat chakra where you can communicate well, or even, the sixth chakra where you have the same value system and you're able to intellectually bond, or spiritually with the seventh chakra and even the lower chakras, because the base chakra, you'll have the same maybe family history, so you have a better chance of having a stronger marriage because you have similar backgrounds perhaps, or creatively, or even in the fifth chakra where you have a bond that you're not competitive with one another but you're supportive, and you have a lot of respect for each other's power. You'll have a really great relationship if you have all of these connections intact, rather than sometimes what you may see in couples that are going to have a future of problems is they may only have one or two strong bonds. Perhaps they're bonded sexually, and they're bonded, at the heart, but they can't communicate. And they have problems in the fifth chakra where they're actually jealous of one another's power. One is dominating the other to not threaten their insecurity. So if you have a balance, you're going to have a really good relationship.
That's great advice. I like that. And it's hard. And sometimes I see, and even in healthy relationships where the balance kind of tips a little bit one side and then the other, but that's healthy. That's going to happen. When your kids are younger and the woman may run the house a certain way because it's necessary, to keep
Yeah.
little ones in line. And then once that kind of, they get older, then it doesn't need to tip in that direction as much. And so it goes back and forth as well, I
Hmm.
think. So anything else that you want to add about intuition and relationships?
Yeah, I'd love to share my secret sauce for having awesome, intuitively connected relationships. Is that okay?
I love that.
Okay. What you can do, and again, now I highly value meditation, and I can't stress it enough. It's very important. It's great for our health. Everyone knows all the great health benefits, but it's also one of the best ways to get your intuition humming along and revving up better and better and better every day. If you can go into a quiet little space somewhere where you won't be interrupted in the morning, close your eyes and envision your partner and see them and see yourself connecting from every chakra equally and visualize it. Visualize this connection from the seventh chakra to the sixth to the fifth, all the way down. Connect and see these bonds. And then visualize this beautiful golden light leaving your body and enveloping both of you. And try to feel the kind of love that you felt when you first fell in love. That kind of first date love, or that blind date love, or the moment that, Cupid's arrow struck and you were just like gaga, right? Try to get that feeling back. And then just, it only takes like a minute. And then after that, when you feel this love and you just really feel it and you feel happy, put a smile on your face, and then see that person when you meet later on in the day. Perhaps it's when you're sitting down to dinner, or you both come home from work, or you both sit down after dinner to sit in front of the fireplace, or whatever it is. Visualize the both of you, maybe holding hands and looking into each other's eyes and just saying, I still love you as much as I did the first day I met you. And have them say that back to you. And what you're doing, and that's it. And then you just, say, I love you, close out your meditation, close out your visualization, go about your day. But what you've just done is you've done a dress rehearsal so that when that person comes home later, when you meet at the appointed place that you saw in your visualization at the end of your day, you have just done a full dress rehearsal for how you want it to go. You've created an intention. You've created the vibrations of that loving space. It's sent out to the universe. And so, if you do this on a daily basis, your relationship will absolutely change. Without a doubt, it will begin to mirror more and more often these spaces in time where you have this live, permeable feeling of love. And it will begin to bring back the strength into your relationship or keep it strong. And I would say just think about the way you felt when you first met. Try to keep that alive, because we know how when you first meet someone, you just can't wait to ask them about themselves. You want to know everything about them. You're interested in their feelings. You're interested in what happened during the day. You're interested in getting to know them. You want to please them. You just have so much more, like, you could feel the connection between you and this person when you fell in love. Most people, that's why they're on such a high. It's because this energy, this ball of energy that is your partner and yours have merged. And there's this huge thing going on. It's like electromagnetic. So if you tune back into that, you will bring that back.
That is probably the best secret sauce I have heard. So,
Yay! Okay.
thank you. Oh my
You're
gosh.
so welcome.
I appreciate that. I'm still like thinking about it because I'm still going, that's a really great way. Because what happens is in relationship, we start to see the person, we start to see the beer gut and the,
Yeah.
flatulence and
Yes. Yeah.
all the crazy stuff. So, okay, I think we're pretty much done. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, or just make sure, I want to make sure that you have your time. So is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
I agree with you. Intuition, unfortunately, is not given the respect it's due. It is growing. I mean, if you look back when I first became interested in intuition and I was very serious about it in my early 20s, you know, since that time, it's become less on the fringes and more accepted. I mean, you'll hear, obviously, there's famous quotes by Steve Jobs where he says to trust your intuition. And there's many, many famous and well-respected, highly successful, wealthy people who will talk about following their intuition. So it has come from being sort of this, kind of crazy woo-woo thing to being much more understood and accepted. And I think if you start to place your intention on increasing your intuition in using it, and as Melissa brought out, which I totally love, you can use it to go back over previous jobs, previous job interviews, previous bosses that you've worked with, and see what type of intuitive intelligence you are receiving, so that you can refine your understanding, get much more clarity around it, and understand how it works in your life and how the warning signs appear, so that in the future you can make much more informed decisions because you're using this extra layer of intelligence, and you'll be much more successful.
Great. Well, thank you. You also had a free gift that you, for the listeners and the watchers in the future.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I have a free training course for women entrepreneurs, and it's called the 9 Mega Mistakes Even Smart Entrepreneurs Make that keep them working way too hard for too little cash flow.
Great. Um, Thank you. So, if on everybody's screen on the right-hand side, you should see a clickable link there. And if you go to that, it will open up in a new page and you can download, it's an audio training. Am I correct?
That's right. Yes.
Great.
It's about 45 minutes, and it's packed with a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's so funny because so many women, even if they're not entrepreneurs, they can always use some sort of cash flow. And I'm sure you have some great tidbits for
yeah.
all sorts of ways to get cash flow and just energetic. Is it an energetic type of thing?
No, it's very serious
Practical?
business mistakes that many coaches and entrepreneurs and healers and authors who are looking to create programs, they unknowingly make, that actually repel the income instead of increase their income.
Well, I'll be clicking on
Okay,
it. We can always use a little bit more
absolutely.
cash flow, right?
Yes.
So I'll be clicking on it. I'm excited for that.
Okay.
That speaks to me. And I have a lot of people who do have their own business, or they're looking to start a business nowadays. We think that starting a business is this difficult thing, and we have to have so many ducks in a row. Really,
Hmm.
all you need to do is just marry your passion and your expertise and kind of put it together.
Yeah.
I know that's what I did to start my business. My expertise was dealing with people. I really can read people really well, and I can see what's going on underneath, just like you,
Mm-hmm.
Angela, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of that was that I had this desire to help people, and I was really good at I like marketing. I know that sounds crazy, but I like
You know
marketing,
what?
and
I love marketing too. So I totally get that. I think it's awesome.
yeah, so that's what we're doing right here, is we're just helping people really get in touch with themselves so that they can be who they truly are meant to be.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people really could do their own job and have their own business without needing, even if it's a part-time business, if
Yeah.
it fulfills their soul, then that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, in my past, in the financial world, I had been trained in personal financial planning. So it never advise anyone to just quit their job and, think their business is going to support them right away. Definitely build it on the side. But I just want to speak to one thing that you said, you had a passion and an expertise and a desire to help people. And of course, that's what I had to, and that's what really propels most women to become entrepreneurs. To think, well, I have this experience. I think it will be very helpful to people, and I love helping people. But amazingly enough, it is that desire to help people that actually then sometimes stifles your ability to make money. A lot of entrepreneurs have a hard time charging for what they do. They have a hard time with the money part. It's like, I don't feel right asking for money, and they get very hung up on that. And so um, that's a big growth spurt that most entrepreneurs need to grow through to be able to charge and ask for money confidently and not feel bad about it. So
I agree. That's my biggest lecture with most people that come across, come to me and they ask me about business. But what I find also, Angela, is interesting is that I have the same issue with people who work in corporate. They're always a little worried about asking for the promotion or the raise, unless they're
yeah,
like this like strong-headed, very confident woman. A lot
yeah,
of them, because they're like, oh well, I don't want to do that. They're fearful of it. So it goes both ways. It's
yeah,
interesting. And I agree with you. I think that people have to understand money's just an energy, and
yeah,
it's how you relate to it, your relationship with it, that
yeah.
makes either it grow or become stagnant. So, yeah.
I think that's a great point that you just made, though, because it is true. And especially for women in corporate America, they do have a more difficult time asking for the raise or the promotion. They're more apt to take less and to remain silent longer. Because a lot of times the problem is women are socialized completely differently. We're raised to be much more, I guess, maybe accepting. I don't want to say submissive, but we're not raised to go out there and be as aggressive and tackle and go for what we want. So women sometimes have a very hard time standing up for themselves and their value in corporate America, and they're also afraid of being perceived as bitches, greedy, and never satisfied. Where if a man may ask for a raise, the boss will say, well, yeah, we'll talk about it. But a woman might feel like, oh no, they might think this, or so there's a lot more going on. It's a lot of mindset things, as you pointed out.
Yeah, I agree. It's so interesting when it comes to money. I should do a whole thing on money. That's actually maybe what I'll do next.
Yeah.
Your relationship with your money. So, Angela, I want to thank you so much for being here today and for allowing this time and sharing your amazing wisdom with us, because it was really a pleasure and it's wonderful to connect with you. I really appreciate that. You have no idea. It's beautiful. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Oh, no, thank you. It was a pleasure. I'm just so happy that I was able to come on and share all of this. And it was just, I was honored that you asked me. And I just thank you so much. And it's my pleasure.
Great. Okay. So just one more minute where I just want to remind you that next Tuesday, which is the 21st, I have Janice Davies from New Zealand, and she's going to be talking about bullying and to understand the solutions for dealing with difficult people and bullies. And you'll discover some answers that'll help you deal with these people, who really bug you and annoy and intimidate you in your life and bully you, and how to deal with them. She's been doing this, I think she said, for 20 years. So she really understands the whole bullying aspect and recognize how you can be happier and have better relationships with families and being more empowered even with the bullies in your life. So that'll be next Tuesday. So please join us then. And again, Angela, um, I totally get you. So I was very happy that we connected, and
Me
I love
too.
intuition. So I just cannot say enough about that. So thank you so much. And also, I just want to say, Angela is a great resource for anyone who wants to do coaching for business coaching. You're really a great business coach. So I've heard through the grapevine.
Thank
So,
you.
all right. Well, you have a beautiful day. And I want to bless everybody who is here and just tell you to go out there and use your intuition. Look for the signs. Be really confident in who you are and trust your intuition. And don't let anyone else tell you that your intuition is off. Trust it. Have a great day.